Hello and welcome to Car Dealer Live. I'm James Baggett, founder of Car Dealer magazine, and today on the show I'm absolutely delighted to be talking to the boss of one of the UK's biggest car brands, Ford of Britain, Chairman and Managing Director, Andy Barratt. Good afternoon, Andy.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for joining us, Andy. So just quick introduction for you, Andy. You've been with Ford for nearly 25 years, I think you said it many more than that, but I won't embarrass you. You've been in charge of the brand since 2015, and is actually one of the longest standing MDs of manufacturers in the UK. So Andy, thank you very much for joining us. I'm sure you've had a very busy few weeks. Firstly, can we talk a little bit about how you've dealt with this crisis as a manufacturer?
I think this has been so catastrophic for everyone. Being a global company, we were able to draw on our experiences from around the world. We saw extensively what happened in China. And in China, the demand absolutely dropped like a stone. It was almost a vertical drop. Hit the bottom and then started to recover. But as it's recovered, it's accelerated. We've seen consumers revert back from public transport into private transport as they felt it was a safer mode, and that's helped the recovery. It wasn't an immediate recovery, but it gradually and then accelerated, and there's been a significant move to new techniques and no touch servicing in terms of the way you interact with the customer, through to a greater propensity for online transactions. And the Chinese were able to adapt much quicker to that and move forward very quickly. If we take, and it's never an exact science, we know this, but if we take from the point that it dropped to the point it started to recover, we've probably got about another 3 or 4 weeks delta before we start to see some degree of green shoots, I think. And that's probably consistent with what's going to come out today in the news.
So, Andy, I'd like to touch on that in a little bit more detail in a moment, if that's okay. What I'd like to understand is, as a manufacturer, how this impacted you, and at what point you realised just how serious this was.
We could see it coming. We've got operations across the whole of Europe, and clearly Spain and Italy went into lockdown much quicker, followed by France, and we saw demand stop. We could see this coming to the UK. It was rolling across Europe, and we took a very quick decision mid-March. One, to get our teams to work from home. So they've been working from home probably into week 5 now for many of them. And we took the decision with the dealers that we had to do a number of things. One was to preserve cash at all costs. Cash is king, and liquidity for the dealers is everything. So we effectively stopped them registering vehicles in March. If you look at the way Ford register vehicles in a big month, they're always back-end loaded. We have probably 2/3 of our business comes in the last 10 days as deliveries arrive and the dealers scramble to hit their targets. We didn't have that close this time, so we had a very modest number and a modest market share, but that was deliberate in terms of preserving cash for the dealers. So it was all about cash, keeping customers and employees safe, and preserving the business in equal measure. And we took those proactive actions. And then since then, we've been taking a regular suite of actions to make sure that the dealers had confidence, that they felt that they were in a supportive relationship with a strong manufacturer, because we either win or lose together in this. We need to come out with strong dealers and strong OEMs, and also get in a position that when things do start to return, that we have enough market stimulus as a manufacturer in the marketplace to make sure customers can replace their vehicles on a PCP or replace their ailing vehicle with confidence and the cushion that there is no significant financial stress in those first few months after return. Customers have enough stress without a car loan on top.
What other costs have you managed to cut for dealers that's helped them in this time?
We've tried to scythe through everything we can. Anything that is not around selling vehicles, parts, or hours, we've basically shelved. So we may not have killed the programs, the support programs, the audit programs, the training programs, the point of sale programs, the additional training materials or supportive of used car franchises, etc. We've just parked them up for a point later in time. The dealers aren't accruing costs. We've just taken those costs away. And when the point is right, we'll gradually reintroduce the programs that underpin a franchise. But in the meantime, all I need the dealers to think about is keeping their people safe, keeping their business viable, and then returning on focusing on the revenue that they need to keep those things going. So anything that is not core to the basic principles of being a dealer, i.e. selling cars, parts and hours, then it's not on our agenda at this point in time.
Do you think you've done enough to ensure the survival of the dealer network, your dealer network?
I'm confident we have the right programs and plans in place. And if a dealer is feeling exposed for any other reason, they know that they can pick up the phone to myself, Paul Singleton, who's my dealer operations director, Lisa Brankin or Mandy Dean, who head up passenger vehicle or commercial vehicles, or indeed Ford Credit themselves. So we have a very open and transparent relationship with our dealers, and I hope that other OEMs have that with their dealers as well. We
reported this morning on the fact the HMRC portal is going to be open on April the 20th on Monday for these claims to be made for staff that have been furloughed. Do you think this is going to be the next pinch point for dealers, this a cash flow issue with that money coming back quick enough into their accounts from the government?
Indeed, I think it is going to be a pinch point, and we've been wargaming with every single dealer, either behind the scenes, looking at their cash flow and the data that we have. That what happens if that furlough money didn't arrive to at least June? So we know every dealer where they are and what we need to do if we needed to support any dealer through that process. So I think, I would encourage everyone to plot the cash flow. Do the worst case scenarios. What happens if that furlough money doesn't arrive till June? Can they manage the cash flow? And if not, reach out to their OEM partner today. Don't delay, go to them today and make sure that they're having the right kind of dialogue and seek that additional support.
I want to move on now to the restart as and when it happens. I'm going to quickly, before I go on to my question, I'm going to go to one that we've just had in here that asked about manufacturers, from a guy called Pete Byford, asking whether manufacturing dealers will be looking to restart the market with extra special deals. Now, this is a topic that a lot of people have been asking about, whether there are going to be deals off the back of this. What are your thoughts as a manufacturer?
Well, if you look at the situation of every manufacturer, no manufacturer is getting any revenue today. When the plants are shut, there is no revenue stream back in. So margins are squeezed for everyone. We're all paying fixed costs and we're all burning money through those fixed costs today. So there's only a limited amount of money available in the system. So this is the time to try and reach out as an industry to government. They helped in 2008, 2009 with a scrappage program. Can BEIS help with a stimulus program for the industry as a whole? And that's something that we will have that debate through the SOMT and Mike Halls on behalf of the whole industry. So, we're in there looking for whatever help and assistance on the basis of the amount of people that not only we employ as an industry through suppliers, manufacturers, sub-suppliers, delivery agents, and all the support functions to the dealer and manufacturer network. But the other side of that is there are many, many businesses that rely on our cars and commercial vehicles as an industry to keep their business running. So either side of the seesaw, whether it's the OEMs and the automotive industry or the end users, we all need a supply of vehicles to come through to kickstart the UK economy. So any stimulus we can get we're going to be looking for.
So we reported on calls this morning from the NFDA, among others, for a new UK car scrappage scheme or a stimulus program to kickstart the market. Is that something that Ford would support?
I think we would look to support any scheme that the government would like to get behind. Is scrappage the right scheme? I don't know. It may be too early to say. You know, the government's clearly not going to abandon their principles around air quality and their drive to green. And if they can combine that with some stimulus, then I think that's something that we should all be looking to support. Now, clearly, we will work with whoever it needs to be in government to make sure that as a whole, as the industry gets the right degree of stimulus. And it's really important, you know, we tend to talk about cars. We need to make sure commercial vehicles are front of house as well, as that is what will power the economy to recover. So whether it's scrappage, whether it's other kinds of support, incentive, that'll be great. But it's way too early to speculate on, even if we'll be successful in our lobbying to get something. But everyone should rest assured that between us and the SMMT, we'll be lobbying hard for whatever we can get.
Why do you think it's so important for a stimulus from the government for the car market? I think some people misunderstand just how important the UK car industry is to the economy as a whole. Do you think supporting the car industry now is something that the government should prioritise? There's
a number of factors in here, and it's good to kind of pick them off. If you pick them off at a macro level, every manufacturer here, you know, is a global player, and they have choices of where to put their capital. So the UK as an attractive manufacturing base is a really important piece for UK PLC to make sure that manufacturers keep investing here, whoever they may be. But we need a strong economy and a strong car industry here for the amount of jobs that it employs. We have a lot of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 suppliers here. We have a huge amount of innovation here. You know, we over-index in terms of global research and development in the car industry in the UK. And then we have high-value automotive manufacturing here as well. And you've seen a lot of those companies come together on various ventilator programs that are taking place. So as an industry, there's a huge amount of technology and expertise and engineering excellence, and supporting that through manufacturing, development, and onto the end customer is absolutely key. And to keep our global competitiveness, we need to have a strong industry.
What is Ford planning? How long is Ford planning for dealers to be locked down for? I mean, have you got any? I know it's a very difficult question to answer, but what in your mind do you think will be the timescale that we're looking at?
If we look at, again, go back to our China experience, if we took that as a typical template, and there is no typical template here because we see Spain and Spain changing, they're going back to work. France have extended for another 3 weeks. Italy, there may be some softening later this week, we don't know. But on our assumptions from China, it's going to take another 4 weeks for any degree of normality to even start to glimmer. You got to plan on that basis. But then there are people out there looking for vehicles today. And if we take the sales function, the dealers are telling me they're seeing reasonable degrees of traffic in that used car arena. So people are sitting at home, they're on the internet, they're starting to surf around, and they are making reservations on certain used cars on the basis it's a unique vehicle and they want to try and secure that for the point when they can take delivery. On new car, you know, they're not time bound. So what we have to do is come up with the right degree of stimulus and also incentive for the dealer, because if the dealer has furloughed staff to get back into that new car arena, they're going to need to unfurlough staff. And that means that there's got to be sufficient risk and reward to make sure that they can do that. And if we as OEMs individually can do that, and then that's great. But there are people shopping. If I look at all the web statistics that we see, our live chats have gone up. The amount of traffic is not at the peak, but the traffic we've got is high quality and of interest. So we should all be in that position to make sure that we take every lead incredibly seriously at this point in time.
Have any of your dealers actually managed to sell cars and deliver them at this time? I know that's a very difficult thing to do with essential travel, but I've noticed online that some dealers are managing to do it. Have Ford noticed anything along those lines?
We have sold quite a few vehicles through the lockdown, and we've seen a lot of fleet inquiry as well. But we are very clear. Lockdown is lockdown, and that doesn't mean delivering vehicles. So if someone is desperate for a vehicle, we will hand them over a courtesy car, and they can use that courtesy car to a point when the lockdown is lifted. It's very easy to be tempted to take that quick sale and take that delivery, but reputations will be won or lost through the lockdown, and consumers have incredibly long memories. And so many consumers and the population as a whole are so concerned about what's going on that actually, if we're seen to be showing little regard for what is something in everyone's interest, then shame on us.
So your dealers at the moment are selling cars but reserving them for delivery?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So talking about online sales and how your dealers are managing to transact, we wrote a piece yesterday about America and how a number of states there are allowing their dealers to go back to work, but only online, and a skeleton staff facilitating those sales and delivering them to those customers' homes. Do you think that would happen here? And if so, is your network well set up for online sales in that manner?
I think, like most networks, the degree of e-commerce ability is variable. What we're seeing through our own kind of information is that customers are genuinely interested to do as much as research as they can, but it's limited amount of transactions that genuinely take place purely online. So whether this will accelerate customers' propensity and appetite to transact fully online, I don't know. It's too early to say. But I think that this will accelerate the change in any way, shape, or form that is coming. So I think there is that to it. Clearly, everyone can adapt. There are off-the-shelf systems one can download and purchase today and be up and running tomorrow. But the reality is, I think most people still want to have a dialogue with a sales exec who has got additional information, and clearly they always want to have what they consider the best value out of any transaction, and that often comes in the dialogue. So early days, I think the change will come, but that leads into a much wider question of what happens when people start to return to the dealerships to work, and what does that mean? And I think there's a considerable amount of work we've got to do. The government will clearly give guidance on if you take, let's use the workshop as the best example. What is the level of distancing between technicians, and what degree of PPE should they be wearing? Do they have a full face visor? Do they wear a face mask? Do they wear, a disposable suit? And we've got to make sure that we provide all that degree of comfort infrastructure. Most people use video technology in the workshop now for video health checks, etc. That should be adapted to give video reassurance to customers that they've had very low touch and that the car has been fully sanitized before handed back. And I think if we're clever as an industry, we can take all the technology that we've got and adapt it to a truly peace of mind process that really ensures that customers retain faith in us as an industry.
I noticed that Virtue Motors are trialling thermometers at some of their dealerships. Is that something you could see being introduced more wider across the network?
I don't think we should, that any retail business should rule anything out at this stage. There's so much that we still don't know. There's so much that, there's so many unknowns around this that actually I think we should be as open-minded to anything that helps reduce the spread of this awful virus.
I noticed you've been sharing some fantastic stories of some of your dealers helping people out. I noticed you shared one on LinkedIn over the weekend. I mean, perhaps you could just tell our viewers about that and any other your dealers who have helped people out during this time of crisis.
I mean, as a joint business between us and the dealers, we've been as proactive as we can. We're clearly making ventilators or parts of ventilators in our own factory. We've been working with over 10 ambulance trusts and have probably just over 200 vehicles out with either ambulance trusts to provide support vehicles, taking those pressure off the frontline vehicles, or with other carer organisations. And then in addition, the dealers have been opening up to provide ambulance servicing, police car servicing, and genuine first response kind of support. But there are clearly exceptional stories that always come out, and many people will have them. And I had an email from a lady on Sunday morning whose son was a heating and ventilation technician, engineer, building the emergency hospital in the Harrogate Conference Centre. He had a problem with his vehicle, where the vehicle kept stopping, and he couldn't get hold of a dealer. So I reached out to the guys at Trustford. They contacted the customer, and within 2 hours, it had been arranged for him to meet the service manager of Trustford at 8:15 on Easter Sunday evening, where we simply took his car away and gave him a courtesy car. Reality is the customer had not been near a dealer for 4 years and hadn't had the car serviced. But that was irrelevant. This was about keeping someone who's doing something so amazing moving, but we built a relationship there for life. And I think if we all look at the bigger picture here, we're going to make lifelong relationships with customers. And those opportunities come along quite rarely. And hats off to Trustford. They did a truly, truly amazing job with that customer. The customer's mother contacted me again, couldn't believe it, absolutely humbled by what Stuart Cresswell and Stuart Folds at Trustford had done, and really had, made us all feel proud. It was a great story, but there are many, many stories out there like it. And, as an industry, we're very good at, focusing on all the things that go wrong or the things that's kind of, stick in our throat. Reality is we should celebrate the great things we do as an industry too, because we do amazing things, and we keep many, many customers running and moving all the time.
Absolutely, Andy, that's absolutely fantastic story, and congratulations to you and all the team for helping out there. And we're reporting on those sorts of stories all the time. It's really heartwarming to see the automotive industry absolutely come together at this time of crisis. Just moving on to a couple of other topics here. Can we just talk about sales going forward? We've obviously just had the sales figures for March, which took a 44% hit. What are your feelings on April? I've seen people talking 98% down. I'd be interested to hear what you think on that. But importantly, when are you planning for a recovery to come?
I think April is going to be incredibly challenged. I think any vehicles that are delivered would be those that are supporting national infrastructure. So they may be paramedic, ambulance, police, or maybe supermarket delivery vehicles. I think anything beyond that, frankly, should sit and wait until the point when, the industry should take a responsible view and move forward together. There is no political capital to be gained by anyone in this space. It really is an industry trying to do what it should do to move everyone forward. And that's dealers, manufacturers, support services, everyone in the same basket. I don't think we're going to see much glimmer of recovery until probably mid-May at the earliest, based around either our insights from elsewhere and also kind of the leading indicators from the government. They're clearly reviewing lockdown. They're going to make an announcement. There is speculation already that it may be another 3 weeks, which clearly takes us into early May. If that is early May, then it's going to take a week or so to kind of get things up and running. Getting people used to getting up at a normal time in the morning again will be a challenge for most after this long. But the reality is we've got to restart a very big machine, and it doesn't switch on immediately. It doesn't accelerate like an electric car.
Do you think there will be pent-up demand for customers that will see this rebound quickly? We reported on China's market, which has been locked down for 14 weeks, but has suddenly seen a massive recovery in the last few days. Do you think we'll see that here?
There has to be. There are people that wanted to purchase and committed to purchase in March, but didn't take delivery. There are people whose PCP contracts mature through April. And while they can have temporary extensions, equally, they want to get out of the vehicle before they get into a different maintenance cycle as well. And there'll be people that actually have sat at home and not spent their money on other things. They're probably thinking, well, actually, I've saved up a little pot. I may as well change the car as well. So I think there are a number of things, the March deliveries, the natural April business that would have come, and then those people that have sat back and thought, actually, it is time to change. So I think the market could accelerate incredibly quickly once a degree of normality returns, and that we have the right checks and balances in place to keep customers safe in the showrooms.
Is there going to be enough new cars to facilitate that in the UK?
Well, clearly there's going to be a gap. There is going to be a gap in terms of the production ramp down and ramp up. But everyone had geared up for March, and March didn't happen. So there is a residue of March supply that is there already, that everyone will be keen to see retailed as quickly as possible.
So what have you learned, Andy, from this from this crisis overall, and what do you think dealers should take as learning points from this going forward?
I think, first of all, you can't take anything for granted. Every day is different, every challenge is different. The big challenge is for everyone is working from home. You plan to keep communicating. And you must keep communicating because there shouldn't be a vacuum for anyone. But you can over communicate and fill people's days with too many meetings that then don't produce anything at the other end. So getting that balance of communication, having the right communication, being as nimble as you can. I think the one thing that my whole team have learned is that you can't speak to dealers enough. That reassurance, that being part of a bigger relationship is really important to a dealer, because you can feel incredibly lonely, even if you're part of a big group at this time, and trying to feel part of something that's even bigger, that is very supportive, I believe is absolutely key. So I think those things are key lessons. The other one is, don't be afraid to try to do things differently. We're in an industry that's steeped in history, in tradition of doing things in certain ways. And actually, as one of our best leaders said to me once, never let a crisis pass you by. This is a crisis not to let us pass us by, and to try and challenge ourselves to either stop doing things and actually realize that they don't add value, or do things very differently because they do add value. But at the end of the day, we've learned we've got to keep our employees safe, we've got to keep our customers safe, and we've got to keep our customers moving. And that's what really is the most important thing here.
Can I touch on marketing, Andy? What have you done as a manufacturer with regards to marketing? Are you still trying to generate leads for dealers and still trying to keep brand awareness out there, or has it been cold completely?
No, one never goes cold completely, but clearly scaling back, because talking to people in a vacuum when everyone's absorbing as much information on keeping themselves safe is the right thing to do. You don't want to clutter the media, and you want to create a clear path for the communications that are relevant at that point in time. But as people settle down, they've socially isolated, they've stayed at home for a number of weeks, they can buy the essentials from the supermarket again. That was clearly a stress point only a few weeks ago. You can start to introduce a dialogue, and you can do it a number of ways. I do my own social media, I quite a lot on LinkedIn. I do some stuff on Facebook, and some of the stuff on Facebook is just general. It's, we have a heritage centre a shed full of cars. So each day I've just been talking about one car a day, just to kind of give some people something to do and talk about. And it just shows the breadth of our established history in the UK. But there is a tipping point, when you can start to talk about what happens when we restart. And it has to be appropriate. The tone is everything. No one should try to capitalize on a crisis, but the tone and that reassurance of, look, when we get out of this, we can help you, is the right place to be. And it's all about peace of mind. And I think if we can adopt and maintain that strategy, then that's the right place to be.
And finally, Andy, what would you say to dealers and the automotive industry when it comes to something to look forward to?
I think, there is still a great year of product actions coming from everyone. There's lots of new vehicles coming. We had a relatively good start to the year. Okay, this bump in the road, it's turned into more than a bump in the road, but this disruption won't last forever. And when it comes back, it does come back with a vengeance. So be prepared to go on the B of bang and make the most of the opportunity that comes along. But in the meantime, don't let the opportunity to do the right thing pass you by.
Andy, thank you very much for your time today. I massively appreciate you giving up so much of your time for Car Dealer Magazine and our viewers today. If anybody else wants to get involved in Car Dealer Magazine live broadcast going forward, they can contact me at james@blackballmedia.co.uk. I'm on Twitter @CarDealerEd, or find me on LinkedIn, send me a message there. This week we've got some great guests lined up. Tomorrow I'll be chatting to the independent dealers and the forces behind the Independent Motor Dealers Association, the IMDA. That's Umesh Samani of Specialist Cars and Jim Reed of Jim Reed Vehicle Sales. On Thursday, I'm talking to the experts from CarWow about what their research can tell us about the car market going forward. And on Friday, I'll be talking furlough, loans, and more with the team from the accountants, UHY Hacker Young. Now, if you've got any questions for any of them, please send them to me at those contact methods I've already mentioned. I'll do my best to ask them. There's a full schedule for Car Dealer Live on our website. Scroll down a little bit on the homepage and you can find it. Or check back every weekday on our website at midday. cardealermagazine.co.uk will be going live every weekday. And lastly, if you go to our YouTube channel, Car Dealer Magazine, you can subscribe there and you'll get a notification when we go live in the future. Which leads me to say thank you very much, Andy. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks to everybody for watching today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.